Hello world and welcome back to my channel. If you've been here before, it's great to see you again. If you're new here, I'm Jeff Hyer. I'm a media producer from Montana who loves to travel and is obsessed with wildlife conservation. So if you take those three things and merge them together, we get this. We get me talking to a camera and talking about my eco experiences. I'm joined today by my sweet dog Quinny. We are currently inseparable while I'm home, so she's going to be making a few periodic cameos throughout this video. Say hi. She's sleepy. On this channel, I talk about my travels. I share my experiences and offer travel insight in order to help you plan for your dream trip. There is a heavy emphasis on eco experiences, which is why most of the content on this page falls under this category of travel. Ecotourism is travel that is directed towards exotic, often threatened natural environments intended to support conservation efforts and observe wildlife. Ecotourism is something I am so fascinated by. I find it incredible how, by visiting the world's most threatened places, our financial contributions can significantly support conservation efforts and change the livelihoods of communities that reside next to these environments. I'm a firm believer that this is how travel can become more sustainable. This is why I feel so compelled to make these types of videos. I want to communicate how impactful eco experiences are on you as a traveler and also the impact your eco-conscious choices can have on the planet. So that leads me to today's topic, which is me talking about my experience at Ol Pejeta Conservancy in Kenya. And not just going there, but while there, meeting the last two northern white rhinos on the planet. Yes, you heard me, there are two northern white rhinos left on the planet, and they live here at Ol Pejeta Conservancy. This was one of the most special experiences I've ever had, and definitely something I feel so compelled to share. I just want to tell this story and digitally journal what this was like, what it was like to go to Ol Pejeta and meet these rhinos, and I want to communicate what I learned and why it matters. So aside from those reasons, maybe you're watching this video to learn more about Ol Pejeta Conservancy and you're considering it as a place you want to go on your next safari trip. Well, I hope this video helps convince you to put Ol Pejeta on your safari list. So in this video, there's two parts. The first part is me just talking about my experience, what it was like to go there, and me actually meeting the rhinos. And part two is going to be me talking about this story, reporting on what I learned, why it matters, and why you should care. I'm not going to be able to tell the whole story and do it justice in this short video, but I do want to generate some form of awareness about this topic to the audience that is watching this today. This is a really well covered story. If you wanted to learn more about these famous symbolic rhinos, you probably find just as much information on National Geographic, Time Magazine, New York Times, Al Jazeera, what have you. This is a big story in the conservation world and the world of environmentalism. This is because there are only two left and the world is watching, and the power of science and technology is bringing new hope that we actually might be able to revive this species and save them from extinction. Although there's a lot of coverage on this story, I hope by sharing my perspective, rhino conservation awareness can reach all the way to whoever's watching this video. So anyway, I'll put that there for now, but let's talk about how I went to Ol Pejeta. So in the summer of 2021, I visited East Africa. This was a dream trip. I had just graduated school and I was so excited to go visit some of these destinations in East Africa and experience wildlife. This is a time in history where Western nationalities were just starting to dip their toe back into international travel. This is why many of the places we went on this trip were quite deserted. There wasn't a lot of people traveling yet. We went for the month of June and visited Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. We had a fantastic trip. We went gorilla trekking in Uganda, and if you're curious to know what that experience was like, I have a video about that on my YouTube channel. Then we went to Tanzania, and then we visited Kenya. And Kenya is somewhere I had been before. I actually studied there when I was in high school for a summer exchange. And this is me going back to explore it further and revisit some of the friends I made while I was there. So due to work reasons, my sister and brother-in-law were unable to stick out the entire trip with me in Kenya. I wanted to go for a full month. They could only budget 3 weeks. And for that reason, my last 5 days in Kenya were solo safari. I was on my own. And the two places I visited in this time frame were Samburu National Park and Ol Pejeta. So I'm coming from Samburu National Park, which, by the way, is a phenomenal safari destination, one of my favorites in the entire world. There are so many unique species that are specific to that region of Kenya. Loved my time there. It was amazing. So I'm coming from there and I'm driving 4 hours to Ol Pejeta Conservancy for one night. Unfortunately, the 4-hour drive turned into 9 hours due to mechanical issues with our car. We had to make numerous stops on the highway. I'm not even sure what was going on. It wasn't ideal, but you know what they say, a true safari is not complete without vehicle issues. After we prevailed over this obstacle, I made it to Ol Pejeta in the second half of the day. It was a big moment. I have been following the stories going on at Ol Pejeta for years, and all of a sudden I was seeing the sign. I was there, and this was very exciting. My driver took me to the stables where I checked in for the night. This is a very, very basic style of accommodations. Granted, I was not there to have a full-on luxury dinner buffet. I was there to see the rhinos. So $30 for a night in a horse stable was perfectly fine with me. I'm actually really glad I stayed there because I met many volunteers who've been at Ol Pejeta for several weeks, volunteering their time and interacting with the northern white rhinos on a daily basis. So that was exciting to connect with them, and because of them I was able to connect with some high-profile people who work at the Conservancy. And you know, when I arrived to Ol Pejeta, I was like, I want to see the northern white rhinos. That is the whole goal. So I didn't actually really know what that would look like. I just kind of showed up and assumed somehow I would be able to find them, but I realized upon arrival that it is quite a big place. There's lots to do. How do I actually go see them? So after talking with the volunteers and talking with my driver, and they tell me to go to the center of the Conservancy where the northern white rhinos have their own enclosure. So I show up about 4:30 in the afternoon and I pay a little bit of an extra fee to have this Meet the Northern White Rhinos experience. It was about $60 US, and I was actually the only person that evening who was signed up for it. So it was just me. I was by myself and I was the only person going on this tour and going on this meet and greet. Immediately, I met Zacharia Mutai. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, but he is one of the head caretakers of these northern white rhinos. He's kind of a conservation celebrity. A lot of news stories have done profiles on him. It's because he spends every day with these northern whites. He knows the frontline insight of this story and what's going on. And he is an excellent communicator at explaining to guests what is going on with rhinos, what is the world situation at the moment, and also just teaching you about rhinos in general, why you should love them, why they are so awesome. I felt very, very lucky to get to know Zach and ask him pretty much any question I wanted. It was one-on-one time with the expert. Because of this, I had a window of opportunity to interview him, and despite the wind kind of muffling a lot of the sound, I did get to record him talking to me about these northern whites.
Ol Pejeta is a well-known place in East Africa, having the largest population of rhinos. So in terms of security, these northern white rhinos, they are being kind of 24/7 by the armed rangers. Yeah, they do receive very tight security 24 hours. Long story, but it was my passion since my childhood. Yeah. And long ago also my father used to work here when it was cattle ranching, but still there were some wild animals like zebras, buffaloes, and I got to engage myself being in love with wild animals, and I started about the wildlife club in primary schools, and it created another added advantage despite having that passion.
Yeah, coming right at us.
Because of insecurity, they choose Kenya as a nice destination. So Ol Pejeta was chosen to be the nice place. This is a good breeding zone. The climate is really good for them. They have got very nice habitat, and that's why they were brought here.
We only walk about 10 meters and then boom, I see them. I see the northern whites. They're just right there. So they are not out roaming in their enclosure at this moment. And that was the moment it hit. I saw them. I just have known these two celebrity rhinos for a long time because I've been following the story, and to actually see them was so impactful. Najin and Fatu are their names. They are a mother-daughter duo, and they are the last two northern white rhinos on the planet. Yes, I've said it a million times, but I wanted to make it stick. I want you to realize the intensity of the situation. So they are mother-daughter. They are both females, and I know what you're thinking. If there's only two females left, then this species is functionally extinct, and it's just a matter of time until they're gone. So moving into part 2 of this video, I'm going to be sharing the story of the northern white rhinos. How did we end up with only 2? Is there hope for them to survive? Why is this such a big deal? Being one of the most celebrated animals to roam Africa and Southern Asia, rhinos have been a victim of trophy hunting for centuries. Their horn, made up primarily of keratin, is a precious commodity used in holistic traditional medicine in many Asian cultures. Rhino horn has been a symbol of high economic status for millennia, and don't just point fingers at Asian countries because the black market rhino horn trade traces all the way through Europe and North America too. Poaching wasn't the same crime back then as it is today because we didn't realize the consequences that poaching would have on a species that was seemingly ubiquitous across Africa and Southern Asia. However, things really started to change in the 1970s when rhino poaching became an epidemic in countries where they were native. The decline in rhino populations really started to deplete during a 3-decade period starting from the 70s, where poaching was rampant in all corners of Africa, especially the black rhinoceros, one of the 5 remaining rhino species that exist today. In 1993, only 2,400 black rhinos existed in the world, with many of those animals living in zoos and zoological parks. The northern white rhino, the subject of today's video, was everything but safe from this growing poaching crisis. There are 5 remaining rhino species that exist in the world today. 3 of them live in Asia and 2 of them live on the continent of Africa. Those 2 would be the black rhino and the white rhino, and within those 2 species there are subspecies. So if we take the white rhinoceros and break down the 2 subspecies, we have the northern white and the southern white. As you know, the northern white, there are only 2 today, and as the name implies, this species was indigenous to the drier sub-Saharan climates in northern regions of Africa, including Sudan, Chad, northern Uganda, and the Congo. They actually were never native to Kenya, where the last 2 exist today, perhaps in the northern regions of the country, but not for at least a century. So in the year 2006, the last wild northern white rhino sighting was recorded, with a few unconfirmed sightings leading up to 2011. But since that year, the subspecies has been deemed extinct in the wild. This left the fate of the northern white rhino subspecies up to the responsibility of zoological parks around the world where the last ones lived. When this realization started to spread, conservationists from all corners of the globe started to race the clock. This rhino subspecies was now extinct in the wild. The only chance at saving them would be to protect the last ones remaining in zoos. In the year 2009, 4 northern white rhinos called this zoo, which I am not going to try and pronounce in this video, they called this place home in the Czech Republic. Upon realizing that this zoo had 4 remaining animals that could be critical in saving the species, they donated the herd to Ol Pejeta in Kenya, in hopes that returning them to their natural habitat and climate would invite them to breed. Of these 4 rhinos from the Czech Republic, 2 of them were male and 2 of them were female, including Najin and Fatu. So I bet you didn't know that the last 2 northern white rhinos to exist today are actually from the Czech Republic. So the herd was donated from the Czech Republic to Kenya. So since the year 2009, more and more rhinos of this subspecies have crossed the rainbow bridge, as they say. And to make matters worse, the last 2 males passed away at Ol Pejeta due to natural causes. This would include Sudan, the last male northern white rhino to exist, who passed away in 2018. His death swept through the media because it marked the end of a species from functionally surviving. The last male was gone. His grave was one of the special things I saw during my visit to the Conservancy. So, now there are only 2, Najin and Fatu. And I know what you're thinking. If there's only 2 females left, how is this subspecies ever going to survive? Clearly, there is a biological challenge presenting itself here. Well, the power of science and technology might just bring new hope to the future of the northern white. Are you ready for this? Because it is mind-blowing. Before only 2 northern white rhinos existed, scientists from around the world collected semen and eggs from previously living northern whites, including Sudan, Najin, and Fatu. These harvested genetics, as we will put it, are frozen under liquid nitrogen in many laboratories, including the Frozen Zoo in San Diego. Bet you didn't know that there's a zoo entirely made up of freezers. With these collected samples, there's enough biodiversity to potentially reinstate northern white populations. That is, if artificially created embryos can survive and be birthed as live calves. Scientists are using a process called in vitro fertilization to artificially create a northern white rhino calf. The idea is to grow a rhino calf using previously collected semen and eggs in a laboratory. There are currently, as I am making this video, 12 successfully created embryos. So there are 12 embryos, and these are essentially little tiny rhino calves that could potentially become a live birth. So they're currently in a laboratory. So what's the next step from here? Now these embryos need to find a home or a mother to carry the pregnancy and to birth them. And your first thought might be, okay, well, we have the embryos and we have some females. Why don't we put the embryos into Najin or Fatu and then they'll have a live birth? Well, unfortunately, these 2 last remaining females are not able to carry a pregnancy. Najin has very weak back legs, which would not allow her to carry the weight of a pregnancy inside her. And Fatu, after a clinical examination, was discovered to have a uterus defect. Yeah, I know, one of the last 2 females that could potentially carry a pregnancy can't because of a uterus defect. What are the odds? But the thing is that these 2 last northern white rhinos might not have to be the ones to carry the pregnancy. The Conservancy is now selecting surrogates to carry these embryos, and not northern white rhinos, southern white rhinos. If this biorescue mission is successful, it will be a groundbreaking moment for conservation. However, for this subspecies to become sustainable and thrive, the procedure will have to be successful many more times to ensure genetic diversity. There's a long way to go, but the fact that this story is not over yet is truly miraculous. Zach, who I interviewed, is a firm believer that the northern white rhinos might be able to be rewilded in their natural habitats once again.
I hope in future we might have quite a number of them. Yeah, because of the future coming generation.
I am so fascinated by this story. I hope I communicated it okay. I know I could talk about it endlessly and there's much more to it, but this is a brief synopsis of what's going on with the northern white and what's happening right there at Ol Pejeta. This will become a groundbreaking moment for science and conservationists alike because it will be a moment that we save a species from extinction. And not just any species, a rhinoceros, one of the big five, a megafauna that lives in Africa. There are still so many threats that are endangering rhinos that exist today, including the ongoing poaching crisis, habitat loss, and government instability. One of the reasons why the last northern white rhinos live in Kenya, a country that they are not originally indigenous to, is because Kenya was deemed the most stable. This collective choice was made in order to ensure security that this biorescue project can be successful. Okay, I could talk rhino to you all day long, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to wrap things up here. I can't wait to talk about this in future videos. The truth of the matter is there are so many layers to curate in this biorescue project, and it's just mind-boggling in every aspect. I can't wait to follow this story. I feel like we are in the middle of it right now, and I can't wait to see what happens next. I look forward to following this story, and maybe, just maybe, fingers crossed, that I'll have the chance to visit Ol Pejeta again this year, and ultimately to learn more and be there and actively involve myself in this process. If you enjoyed this video, learned something new, and want to learn more about my wildlife experiences in ecotourism, subscribe to this channel. I so appreciate all of you who continue to support my creative journey. I'm Jeff Hyer, and thanks again for watching.